Hey everyone, this is Sophie. Welcome back to a new tutorial. We're doing the most requested topic, how to color enemy drawings. Instead of just sketching something random, I actually found my very first digital colored artwork. I used a tiny little pen tablet plugged into this massive PC. I was so proud of it back then. I did the line art by hand, scanned it and colored it digitally with Photoshop. So I figured, why not do something similar today? So I grabbed an A4 paper and started sketching with a pencil. It's been forever since I sketched by hand. You'll probably notice I went kinda overboard with the shading. I forgot how relaxing it was. Anyone else feels that when they draw? For the coloring part of this tutorial, we will be using iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil. The exact models are listed in the description of this video. Now that the sketch is done, I took a nice high-res photo of it and I'm opening up the software I'll be using to color, which is Clip Studio Paint EX. You can follow along using Adobe Photoshop or Procreate. Any of these will work just fine. Let's start by creating our canvas. Go to File, New and click on Illustration. Choose a canvas size. 3000 by 4500 pixel is a good one. Now go to File, Import and select Image from Photo Library. You might need to rotate the image using the pointer here. Once it's positioned, adjust the size as needed. Next, go to Edit, Tonal Correction and Brightness and Contrast. Increase the brightness and contrast like I'm showing here, and reduce the opacity to around 38%. This preps the sketch so we can trace on top of it. Now create a new layer and call it Linework. Go to the pen tool and choose the pen you like. I downloaded mine from the free Clip Studio Assets Library, link in the description, but honestly any default pen works great. Make sure stabilization is set above 70. This helps with smoother, cleaner lines. Using the pen tool, start tracing over your sketch from the line work. I sped up this part of the video, but I did take my time. One thing I've learned over the years is that good line work makes a good drawing. Now I'm sketching the eyes. For those asking why I did not use the vertical symmetry ruler like in the last video, it's because her eyes aren't in full front view, so symmetry wouldn't work here. Here I'm outlining the lines by following the sketch, and then the nose, and then the mouth. Her hair kind of reminds me of Moria from Ocean of Secrets manga. I also created a new layer just for the eyebrows. You don't have to do that, but I like to keep them separate when they overlap with other features. Just a habit of mine. Use the eraser tool to fix any lines you're not happy with. You can even increase the sketch's opacity if you need better guidance. Final touches, make sure that all your lines are connected. This will really help us in coloring. Next, hide the sketch layer by clicking the little icon. Select both line art layers, go to Layer, Merge Selected, and combine them into one. Click on the merged layer and hit Duplicate. Then go to Filter, Blur, and then Gaussian Blur, and set it in the first quarter, somewhere around here. Reduce the opacity a bit. This gives the line art a subtle glow and a smoother look. I actually learned this trick from my Skillshare course, which brings me to the sponsor of today's class, Skillshare. If you've ever wanted to improve your art, Skillshare is packed with amazing classes for artists at any level. Skillshare classes are taught by top creatives like pro illustrators and designers, so you're learning straight from people who actually do this for a living. There are classes in art, illustration, design, photography, music, and even creative writing. One course that helped me in the making of this tutorial is the coloring workflow by Scott Harris. It breaks down the color theory, shading, and lighting in such a simple, practical way. I used a bunch of his tips in this tutorial, for example in the pre-production of how I smooth the lines with the Gaussian blur. Also, how to locate base colors, choosing shadow tones, and creating soft highlights that really makes the piece pop. And that's just one of many courses you can learn from. And the best part is that the first 500 people to click on the link in the description or scan this QR code on screen will get a free 1 month of Skillshare. So if you've been thinking of leveling up your digital art, now is the perfect time to start. Let's get back to coloring. Alright, so we will first create a folder and name it color. Inside that folder, we're going to create a new layer. Folder helps keeps our files organized. Bring back the sketch layer so we can see the details again. Here's a tip I picked up from the course as well. Use a gray background while coloring. It helps you choose better colors. Create a new layer under the color folder. Now I'm importing the reference photo. Make sure that the gray background layer stays beneath that color folder. Pick a skin tone. You can use the eyedropper tool, but this time I'm going for a much darker base tone. Select the bucket tool and make sure you've enabled refer other layers, so it fills inside the line work properly. Now fill in all the skin areas as shown. Next, grab the eyedropper again to pick a hair color. Adjust it slightly, then use a new layer and the bucket tool to fill the hair. Do the same for the eyebrows, eyelashes, eye whites, teeth, and mouth, each on its own layer. Use the eraser to clean up any spots that shouldn't be colored. Even the eyes, shirt, and collar should be on separate layer. Basically, you're keeping every part in a separate layer. Once all your base colors are down, we will move to shading. Now you can always tweak the hue and saturation if needed from the tonal correction. Create a new layer above the skin layer and turn on the clipping mask. This way, everything you draw will stay within the skin area. Let's assume the light source is coming from the left. You can tell from the eye highlights, so we will build shadows based on that information. Use the eyedropper to grab the base skin color, then shift to a darker tone, something closer to a reddish hue. With a soft airbrush, add shadows to the forehead, neck, and under the nose. These are the area where I think would be the darkest. I have also merged the line work layers around that point so that we only have one line art layer. Add more shadows under the eyelid and areas like the neck where hair overlaps. A touch of blush helps bring the skin to life, again with the soft brush. Next, go to the eye white layer, which is called the sclera. We'll just call it eye white for now. So, clip a new layer above it and use a soft gray to add some shading. Eye layer, you can tweak the hue saturation if needed. Clip a layer above the eyes and use the pen tool to define and darken the eye pupil. Outline the eye circle with the same dark shade as shown. Now, I'm using the airbrush to add a gradient effect by darkening the upper part of the eye. Use the eyedropper to select a light color and use the airbrush to lightly give the eyes a softer look. Then on a new layer, without clipping, draw a pink circle and reduce the opacity You may change the layer blending mode and experiment here. Pick the darkest eye color and use the brush to slightly darken the pupil. On a new unclipped layer, pick a white color. Make sure it's close to white and not too white to draw highlights. Drag this layer all the way to the top. And add little dots of light. Go to the skin layer and create a new clipped layer above. These layers can be stacked. Let's add some highlights using the soft airbrush. Use the eyedropper to select the skin tone and then pick the lightest color. Add highlights to the neck where the light is hitting, the nose and cheek sides close to the light source. You may use the blur tool at any time to blend the colors together. And at any point you feel the colors are off, you can fix it in the tonal correction as I'm doing here. Finally, pick a dark shade of the skin tone to add shadows to areas that are supposed to be darker than the rest. Next, I'm adjusting the eyes and adding more eyelashes. This part is experimental, so I will speed it up a little bit. I wanted to show that as the drawing progresses, you will find yourself changing and fixing a lot of features. And of course, don't forget to save your file. Now for the hair, I used tonal correction to slightly change the pink base color. Create a clipped layer above the hair layer. Now use a brush, a soft brush, to lightly shade the hair by understanding where the light and dark colors fall when looking at the light source. Then, on another clipped layer, use the pen tool to define hair strands with a darker pink. Use the blur tool to soften these lines. Now, if you don't like the color, adjust it with the hue saturation tool. Then use the airbrush to add more depth and dimension. On a new layer, add soft highlights with a very light pink, and as you notice that the color gets lighter when you're closer to the light source. Add a few white strands to give the hair that extra detail and dimension. Now shade the shirt and collar, all using the same process. I didn't like the mouth line, so I erased part of that inked mouth and added a reddish shadow instead. Also fixing the nose here. This is the best time to tweak anything that feels kinda off. Now let's do some final touches that really level up your art. Add fine strands of hair on top. So this is something I always do after completing the drawing, is just adding that extra random lines in the hair. Add a soft white line along the side of the face. This is also a shading techniques that I have learned from the course. I fixed the nose again here, and this is something I usually do after the drawing is almost complete. Another cool trick, which also makes a difference, is clipping a new layer above the line work and use the airbrush to tint the lines with dark red, especially around the jawline. This gives the whole drawing a softer look. Feel free to experiment with different line colors too. You can already see the difference. It's looking much more polished now. We went from a rough sketch to this. Now I'm merging all the clipped layer together. So all the hair layer, all the skin layer, everything together. Then I'm going to use the tone curve to adjust the color balance across all these different areas. I'm going to import a sky background from the Clip Studio Asset Library to match the overall vibe. Select all layers and merge it down. Don't include the background in this merge, and use tonal curve again to adjust the colors. And finally, I'm playing with the new Quick Filter tool on Clip Studio. You can get a bunch of cool effects. I personally love that cobalt blue filter. In the Layer Property tab, you can hit this button to add a white outline around the drawing. Doesn't always look perfect, but it adds a nice final touch. And that's it. I hope you find this tutorial helpful. If you did, please like the video and leave a comment. It really helps revive the channel and bring back the engagement we once had. It means so much to me seeing people who've supported me all these years. Whatever you're doing now, I hope it brings you joy. Thank you for watching.